capability?
Sorry.
I think we would, I mean, we might have some of it. I would have to check into it because I know people can check their accounts online through emails. So I think our software provider is, if not already there, is at least moving in that direction. I don't think it's all that far off. So, I mean, it just is the obvious direction that we need to move in.
So just a simple email to say your bill is ready, check your account. Yeah, okay.
So Rob, we're ready to go if you want to call the meeting to order.
Okay, so let's call the Bluewater Park System Local Advisory Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. First line of business would be approval of the agenda. Let's see here, introduction of late items. Is there any late items?
None for me.
Okay, anybody else? Nope. Okay. Recommendation that the Bluewater Park System Local Advisory Committee approve the agenda for the July 12th, 2022 meeting. Yay, put your hand up, yay or nay?
Okay.
Okay. Carried. Okay, adoption of minutes. Minutes of the March 31st, 2022 Bluewater Water System Local Advisory Committee meeting. That unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch the YouTube video, and it was got a little bit colorful there at the beginning.
You're talking about Patrick.
Yes. So yeah, so I believe the committee had a chance to review those after the meeting, and you all had said they look good. So recommendation that the minutes of the Bluewater Park Water System Local Advisory Committee meeting held on March 31st, 2022 be adopted. Yay?
Yep.
Carried. So now we will open it up for public comments. So public comments, opportunity for members of the public to comment regarding items on the agenda or any other comments, issues that may wish to bring to the committee's attention. So anybody from Bluewater residents and beyond have any comments they would like to bring forward? Alfred. And we can't hear you.
Still can't hear you, Alfred.
Yeah, no audio.
Alfred, you must have a button on the top on your function keys, and you must have your sound turned off. You can sort of see some sound keys up there.
No, that's the mute.
Okay, now unmute yourself.
So the triangle beside the mute. So you just found the mute button. There should be a little arrow pointing up beside the mute button. Oops, I just clicked myself off.
Oh, we just lost Alfred.
Nope, he's nothing.
Yeah, there's a little arrow there and then goes to audio settings.
Nothing, Alfred.
I don't think it's going to work.
What you could do, Alfred, maybe if we're not able, either type something in the chat on here or send an email to the Bluewater Park LAC committee afterwards, and then we can have a read through that and add it in after the fact. Would that be okay, Steph?
Yeah, or you can send it now if you want to send it now, and we can read it out loud. But, or after as well is good too.
Or we can do like we did with the last one. If Alfred's in favor of the water rate system, he can do a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anybody else from the Bluewater Park residents have anything to add right now? We'll follow up with you afterwards, Alfred, okay? Okay. Nothing further from public comments. So let's move into new business. 2022 water system rate, water system user rates. So Kristen, this is part and parcel of the presentation you already given, correct?
Yep, so an official motion of support or not support for the proposal to move to the consumption-based rate.
I guess before we vote on that, any feedback on whether we should be looking at implementing this right away versus waiting to the new year? Comments from LEC members?
I think
it should be implemented. Sorry, Mark.
No, go for it, Jerry.
I would personally like to see it implemented as soon as practically possible.
I actually too would like to do it this year because under I think a way that we could do it is to just go with a pro rata share of the flat rate for the portion of the year that we've already gone, and then start with the June 1st forward with the meter readings. And that also kind of spreads it out over half a year. And, you know, if there was any concern around, are we going to make that revenue target? We're only looking at a half a year implementation of the metered rate. So I think it would give us, it's kind of an opportunity to inform ourselves how it would impact people. So I like the idea of doing it half and half. I think there is a significant onus on the municipality and people within the community to get that word out there that that a different rate structure is going to be in force than previous was. So we would have to make sure that people are right aware of that from day one.
And how would that awareness be communicated to the community?
Through all of our regular communication channels, our social media, our email distribution list. Again, we really want to try and get the word out and get people to sign up for that email distribution information email list. It's the single best way to stay on top of local service area issues.
So that's two forms: social media, email. Would you post in the undercurrent?
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah.
Would you also do snail mail?
If people thought that it was helpful and should be done, I mean, yeah.
Because I know that there's a fair amount of people that still refuse to sign up for emails with the municipality. And social media is hit and miss when it comes to certain demographics of members of the community as well.
Yeah, for sure. We can send people a letter.
So Kristen, you're going to do the regular billing as of the end of June, or you're only doing it once a year now, aren't you? Yeah. So we could do like a pro rata smaller flat rate based bill and then change it and do it on a go forward basis. Yeah.
And there would be a preamble explaining the reasoning behind this to the community of the advantages, et cetera, on it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, communication is very important in order to not get members of the community upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when you send out the bill, which would be effectively the end of June, wouldn't it? You could include a.
There you go.
I've got the back of the bill to write on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Yeah.
And that saves you from a separate mailer.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent
So,
point.
good point, Mick.
Yeah, no, I'm
Nat's
in
not
favor
looking
of,
happy.
I'm in favor of doing it as quickly as we can. Yeah.
Who's not looking happy?
Well, I
Allison?
wasn't sure whether Annette's looking happy, like has the meters been read as of the end of June and stuff like that?
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, you read mine.
Does Chana have a question?
Yeah, I guess just we haven't answered Jonathan's question.
And I was going to get to that, Chana.
Okay, yeah,
So-
and I know we talked about it previously on just the allocation of FTEs, full-time equivalents, but I just still have to challenge the assumptions in there. You know, in a municipality that's so resource constrained, why are we sending folks out to read meters in the, you know, I like Jonathan's question. It makes sense. And so just to have like that table, then so we understand that's going to be helpful. I understand people can be reallocated, but what are they being taken away from in a resource constrained municipality? You know, that's just always a concern for us.
So they are currently doing them in the winter time. So it's really just a moving people around to meet a schedule that works to get the readings done in time for billing. We do proactive reading that aren't used for billing purposes, but it's done to get a gauge of consumption and just to be aware that.
I also think it's important to catch leaks that are happening over the winter, to catch them during the winter time, because I often get calls from people who have been informed they have a leak and they cannot get a plumber in the summertime, for example. And it drags on and water gets lost. So it makes no sense to leave the water leaking over the winter and push it all to the summer months.
Mhm.
And this isn't just about public water main leaks. This is about private property leaks as well that you're helping to identify
Yes,
to
That's what
assist the homeowners. So there is an advantage there. And we're talking 2 additional readings during the winter months, Annette?
they are already being done, those readings. I would have to open my schedule, but I don't think there are any additional readings. It's just additional billing.
Yeah.
And the billing is going to be easier to produce than the current bills you're
Yes.
producing. So that's going to probably balance out
Yeah.
cost wise.
Further,
In terms of
just to address
communications-
Jonathan's point too, about every gallon that you use costs you. Every gallon that you use costs you because you're buying it from King Edward Bay. So use as much in the winter, maybe, but it's driving prices up. So people
I thought we don't buy it from King
people
Edward Bay in the
should be
winter.
conserving and using what they need.
I thought we don't buy it
throughout
from
the
King Edward
year.
Bay. I thought we don't use it. King Edward Bay water in the winter, just in the winter.
No.
But we have water. And so, well, that's what the other guy said a couple months ago, that the majority, we get all our water in the summer from King Edward Bay. But in the winter, we get most of the water from the Bluewater wells.
There's not enough water in the Bluewater well to supply winter demand either. There's King Edward Bay year-round water, going to the water.
So we've functionally been on the King, this is my point from the day one, I don't want to argue it again, but since 2007 or whatever, when we switched over, basically the King Edward Bay water system has been the Bluewater water system. So it's a whole different, another discussion, but I'm just curious to know the rate structure. When you say like 4,500 gallons or 2,500 gallons, is that per month or total? Like how does that work?
Yep, those thresholds are on a monthly basis. So we would
and you read them in the
multiply that by
winter?
3 months and increase those thresholds by that period. So 45, like for the period, the quarter, 4,500 is the lowest charge. And then the next threshold is 4,501 to 7,000, and the next threshold is 7,001 to 9,000. And then everything over 9,000 becomes charged at 2 cents per gallon.
And in the summer, but in the winter, you just read it. You read it monthly, or do you read it just quarterly?
We read it twice in the winter. So yeah,
Twice in
just
the winter.
quarterly.
And then when do you start reading it monthly?
June to the end of September.
May 1st, I thought, to October 1st, Annette.
Yeah, there was an additional, I think
Yeah.
the May reading could then be, would then not take place anymore because there is one in a month earlier or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you'd have a reading at March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, and December 31st for
For billing
quarterly, for the
purposes.
billing purposes.
Yeah.
And then the other readings in the summer are just to keep track of
Yeah.
possible leaks and
Fire.
overconsumption, you know, really excessive use and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Another point that might be interesting to note, and Annette kindly shared about 18 months of metered consumption in Bluewater with me several weeks ago. And I agree with Kristen's number of 96 imperial gallons per day per consumer during the 4 metered months in the summer. But it's interesting to note that the other 8 months of unmetered water supply average 75 imperial gallons per day per consumer.
Yeah.
So it's not as though there's no consumption in the winter. I found that quite surprising that there's a relatively small difference between the 96 imperial gallons per day per consumer in the metered months and 75 through the winter.
So that just means you've got more full-time year-round residents now than used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That and the occasional overusers, whether it's a commercial vehicle wash that takes place in Bluewater that's been doing that for many years now. So this will allow to capture that kind of thing going forward too, of those excessive water users.
Well, the big thing is pressure washing in April. I reckon Bluewater goes through a few tens of thousands of gallons of water just pressure washing in April. So this will identify, that as a blip.
Yep, and help to promote water conservation all the time.
Yep.
So do you want me to include like a start date in the proposed recommendation then? Like, recommend that this approach begin in,
As soon as practical.
Yeah. I think I would prefer it if you just left it a little bit open end to give us a little bit of wiggle room on either July 1st, August 1st.
just say as soon as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kristen, it's just Chana here again. Annette and everyone else did provide some really good wording that can be used, and I love Mike's idea about adding it to the bill. So if you are gonna, as you move forward with it, there's some really good wording to share with the community. Things like this is a rewarding conservation, and Annette's point on the ability to continually over the year monitor for leaks. I think that's a very valid point given Rob's and the LAC's current context. So those are just a really good, good feedback to take into consideration. And that's our role here, is to help in the communications. So I think there were some really valid points. That's why I was surfacing the questions and surfacing Jonathan's point. I think there's some valid points that can be communicated to the rest of the community that help reinforce the rationale for the decision. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It's very helpful for us as staff too, because, when you look at things constantly, you begin to understand them and you assume that everybody else has that same level of understanding. So hearing what words are really helpful will really land well with people is good for us to know. So thank you.
Okay. So I guess the next thing is the recommendation, Steph, on what we're going to be voting on.
Sure. Okay. That the Bluewater Park Water System Local Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to implement the rate structure proposed at its July 12th, 2020 meeting, and recommend that this approach begin as soon as possible.
Okay. All in agreement?
Yep.
Against? Carried.
So I didn't see anything from Jonathan.
I'm against.
Okay.
Shauna?
Oh, sorry, I put a thumbs up. Sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Okay,
I guess the next point, any other business to discuss? About the only other thing I could maybe bring up, Patrick, because I know that we ran out of time talking about phase 1, phase 2, 3, 4, and beyond, the bigger picture. And this is kind of our sitting together in the MOUs with Liam and the other two chairs, that any kind of larger proposal that we want to put out there. And I know that we're going to be getting together on more discussions with the MOU. I believe the ball is in Liam's court right now to clean up on the MOU and have some further discussions with the other chairs of the two water systems on how to move forward with it. But some of the discussions that we had, Patrick, in those MOU meetings is us getting together and how we can fine tune the communication to help the community understand more on what we're trying to achieve here, what the pros are, what the cons, what the options are. So I'm reaching out that we're available to work with you to come up with a plan that that we all can get on board with, that will help the community better understand how some of these steps forward can be, because it's a pretty monumental thing that everybody's got to get their heads wrapped around right now, and it's going to take some more work on all of our parts to better communicate that out to the communities going forward here.
Yeah, that would be great to get some help with that, and maybe a good approach would be to, go back through what has been presented to the community, because we did have presentations all the way along here, and clearly we're still needing more, and it's not clear in my mind right now what that looks like. So yeah, we'll need some.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll continue to work together on that. Find lots of time for that. And any other LEC members have any other business that they'd like to bring forward right now?
Chana's hand up.
Chana.
Maybe just playing devil's advocate here, right? So what would it take to expedite a decision here? I think the BIM is, if we take Patrick's word here at face value, there have been a lot of presentations. So what would it take on our side? Like it does, I'm just playing devil's advocate. It feels like we're sitting on our hands and unable to take a decision. So if we can be very crystal clear about the sort of forms of communication, because I can hear the frustration in Patrick, and I can like just seeing through his eyes, what's it going to take to help BIM be in a position to communicate on what we need. We've got the responses to Trevor's questions, and I think we can just address those. But given our concerns, it does feel like we keep kicking this ball along, and I do get concerned about that. So I have concerns about the size of the expense and the ability to hold us accountable to 6 million. I think there's some trust issues, at least from members of the community, and being able to hold the line on those costs. So I get worried about that amount, but I don't think it's a binary decision here, one or the other. It would be nice to see some options brought forward in terms of the funding proposals. And I thought Kristen's presentation helps us get there. So just, but I think we should just kind of like, what's it going to take? Make sure we align on that and move forward.
Mick?
Yeah, I feel really torn here because I've been in Patrick's shoes, not in a municipal situation, but in other situations where you think you've provided the information and yet you come to a meeting and people don't think they have the information. And I think it's just an indication that this is a very complicated issue, and it has many facets, and it's got a lot of history and a lot of information and a lot of misinformation. And I think we've got to simplify the message. We've got to simplify the story and actually break down the justification for phase one into why we're doing it, why it needs to be done in very clear terms, so that people like us and the people that we represent in the community can understand why you feel this needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think that's job one, and we can help you with that, because I think if you can present it to us in a way that we at least understand. We may not all agree. I'm sure that amongst the five of us, there'll be people who won't agree. But I think at least if we can all be on the same page. And I think for the subsequent phases, I mean, one thing that's missing in those phases 2, 3, and 4 is a time frame. Of course, the cost estimates, all boil back to 2022. But if we look down the road, we do it over 5 years, it's going to cost a lot more. So those kinds of considerations, I think a clear position on the fire flow, which is what's driving a lot of this. I think we need to know, we need to have the information about fire flow so that as homeowners we can make decisions. We know it has an impact on insurance, so we need to have some guidance around that. And finally, I think the MOU is a total waste of time. It's a red herring, and I think we should just abandon it. It's not achieving anything. So I think if we spend another minute on it, we're wasting another minute. So that's my personal view. But I know, Rob, you've worked on it very hard, but I do think it's not going to take us anywhere.
Yeah, and with speaking with Liam, who's been having conversations with mayor and council, is that we'll give it one more bit of a kick, see if we can cobble something together, and if it doesn't come to fruition, then we proceed on our own as a community to hopefully support what BIM comes up with for these next levels of upgrades that's going to be needed in whatever form into the future, because it is an aging infrastructure that does need to be upgraded at some point. And how we get to there is going to be these discussions that we'll have to continue to have. The presentation that you put together tonight, it was pretty good from getting the message out there, but there's still I feel some gaps that we can work together to jiggle out a few more clarities on things, add a little bit more in here. I've already put together about a 2-page document on additional questions, that kind of thing, on what we can do to kind of help massage this into the pros, the cons. You have some potential issues with this. Well, here's the answers, here's the reasoning, and pull the facts out of some of the past information, and even some of the history that I've slowly been compiling from previous minutes throughout over the years as well. And I see your name quite a bit over the years, reading through the minutes, Kristen, as well too, when you were in the treasurer position. So I think that'll help kind of put some minds at ease, as long as we can build the rest of it together for the ultimate presentation to the community in the steps that's needed.
Sorry, I got distracted by a question popped up. It was about Bowen Bay and King Edward Bay rate structures. I tried to simplify, like do everything you're saying, like break it down to, in fact, it is fairly simple, right? We've got, we've got all these people that need water. These are the most productive wells we have. We have one reservoir that's suitably sized. We're supplying from our best wells into that reservoir to provide enough water for everybody. I tried to break it down to, to that level and, and also separate out the fire protection. I mean, clearly it didn't work because we're still, everyone's saying we need to do something differently.
Patrick, I think it's that not everybody could remember what was in those other reports. So I think it's more just a couple of charts on what the wells can produce now, what the number of houses are now, times the estimated annual consumption from take an average consumption. So if X doesn't equal Y, then we've got to increase the water rate supply.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we can figure something out, I'm sure.
Well, it's in those old reports, and I think you just have to give everybody the background.
Yeah.
Each time you just, you can't assume that everybody's remembered what's in the old reports.
Well, I mean, we've got Patrick giving us his professional view on this, and then we've got Jonathan saying, hold on, we got lots of water, we don't need to do anything. So, somewhere along the line, we've got to, and Jonathan's representing part of the community. So we've got to provide the information to help Jonathan see your point of view. And at the moment, he's not seeing it, rightly or wrongly. But, I think we've got to be able to justify to people why this is necessary.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've quite got that yet. But I'm happy to help, happy to be involved in that, because I actually think it needs to be done. But that's just my personal view.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, because when, earlier Jonathan was questioning whether we needed to do this, nobody else said anything. So that made me wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I'm because the message, at least how it's been landing for me from members of this committee are that, this is important to us, and, we want you to advance this, as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little bit, those perspectives are at odds.
Okay, I understand.
I think it's just turning in the EXP report into 1 or 2 pages of very simple. The report says this. If you want to go and read the detail, here's the link. But it says we've got X gallons per day, and to supply our houses, we need Y gallons per day, and Y is less than X. So we just have to lay that out.
I wanted to just address Jonathan's question regarding what happens if the other LAC committees vote against it. It, as has been mentioned tonight several times, the bylaws are up to council to consider and approve and adopt. We're bringing these forward as staff recommendations. We bring them forward, and we may or may not get a supporting resolution from the other committees, but we are acting on the direction of council taken from their strategic plan, who said, take a look at these bylaws and review them and look at them with a view to consideration that climate change is here to stay. And these are things that are impacting how we are going to live. And we want our rate bylaws to reflect the reality of the situation. So we're doing this because we've been told to do this. And the other committees may or may not agree with the recommendation. We'll take all of that. We'll take all of that back to council, and it's up to them to decide.
It's still up to council to actually approve it or not. Is that correct?
The financial plan and the yes.
So then it'd be difficult to implement it retroactively or right away if you need to wait for council to.
We're meeting at the end of July.
Yep.
Sorry, Allison?
End of July. So.
Yeah. So what if what if you voted against it? I mean, maybe if there's enough opposition from the other groups, King Edward Bay, Bowen Bay, to sway you, or I mean, if it's already a foregone conclusion, then it should be put forward in these meetings, or at least certainly to King Edward Bay and Bowen Bay, that regardless of how you vote, it's probably going to go through, right?
I don't know. I can't speak for 6 other people.
No, I get that, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Allison, is it's going to be difficult to start sending out bills tomorrow if it may not actually go through.
No, well, the bylaw would have to be passed before Kristen could send out any bills.
Right.
Okay, yep, okay.
And there's nothing that says that, I mean, the rates, the numbers won't be exactly the same for each system, correct, Kristen? Because the operating costs are different per system.
No, we've got the same rate bylaw for each.
Oh, you have done. Okay, so it's just how much is going to end up going into the surplus.
Correct. And so when we
Yeah.
take a view where we want to increase that amount going into surplus in one district and a different amount in another, that's where we start having to play with the flat rate component.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
those are done based on the infrastructure upgrade needs that exist in every system.
Yeah. Okay.
But we got to start somewhere. And I did the math on all three systems and I think it's safe enough to try and we got to start somewhere. So.
And no other than Tunstall Bay is on this?
All of them have metered rates. The only fully flat rate district is Hood Point. But many of them have this, this initial allotment that is not come with any metered rate charge. The Tunstall Bay model and this model start charging from the first gallon used. So it's different in Tunstall Bay and it's planned to be different here. And we plan to bring Cove Bay along and Eagle Cliff as well with this same model that we charge from the first gallon.
And I believe some of the private water systems have this type of model where it's charging from the first gallon.
I think Cowan Point might, but I'm not sure. It all depends whether you're a utility or a strata. We have to charge everybody equally being a strata.
Yeah. Okay.
Kristen, I just had a question that occurred to me, and I forgot to ask it.
Mhm.
When you made the financing illustrations in your presentation, for phase one, the well upgrades, you chose a 10-year term for that. Was there a reason why you didn't choose a longer term?
I could choose a longer term. 660 is very close to the amount that Tunstall Bay just borrowed to do theirs, and they did theirs over a 5-year term.
That was for the tank, right? It was for a tank?
Correct, yeah. I think, I wouldn't want to extend a $600,000 debt over a 30-year term. It just seems for every local service area that needs to borrow, it impacts the overall borrowing ability of the municipality as a whole. So if there's something that could reasonably, without too much, without causing too much distress on taxpayers, if we could pay it off over a shorter period, that would always be preferable. It's really the big amounts borrowed that we can extend them out as long as we possibly can.
Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Almost dark.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I haven't had my dinner yet.
Yes.
Oh.
Do we want to wrap this up, Steph?
Please.
I think we're done. Yeah,
We're
we're
done.
good to go. Yeah.
Can we
And you
adjourn?
get to adjourn. You don't even need to ask them.
Okay, everybody, go home.
We are
I am
home.
home.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you, everyone.
all your hard work, everybody.